How do rights generate revenue? When an artist creates a song for commercial release, they are trying to make money from the rights they hold. As mentioned in our video, What is a Record Deal?, this will obviously include things like the right to make copies of a song they composed, or of a recording they've made. However, there are other rights that can generate revenue, and perhaps in ways some artists may be unaware of. We will cover some of these in this video. The most obvious set of rights relating to music are those covering the composition, both the music and the lyrics, and those relating to any recording made of this composition. These are respectively termed the publishing rights and the recording rights, the latter of which is often called the master rights. Publishing rights are instantiated or come into existence whenever someone creates a song. They are by default controlled by the song's creators, but they can be assigned or licensed to others, usually publishing companies or collective management organisations, so-called CMOs, for the publishing sector. Recording or master rights are instantiated whenever someone creates a recording of a song. The default owner of these rights varies by territory, but as a general rule they are controlled by whoever paid for or arranged the recording session. Again, these rights can be assigned or licensed to others, most obviously record companies, but also to CMOs for the recorded music sector. These CMOs exist to grant licenses or permission for the use of these compositions and recordings, and to collect the revenue generated from this licensing process. For example, for a song to be played on the radio, or on a jukebox in a bar, or in an in-store playlist in a clothing shop, the people playing it in each of these situations needs permission from the copyright holder. Rather than an artist or other rights holder having to negotiate with every individual instance of somebody wanting to use their song, CMOs can be appointed to grant this permission, negotiating on behalf of the rights holder. The radio station, bar or clothing shop would purchase a license, and some of the money from this purchase would then be paid to the rights holder. CMOs also collect revenue due to performers, the people who played on the recording, in virtue of their performing rights. So even if you didn't write the song or pay for the recording session, the fact that your performance is being broadcast and listened to is actually revenue generating for you due to your rights as a performer. This is because performers have a right to equitable remuneration, to be paid a share of income whenever performing rights are commercially exploited. Performers also have to grant approval to make and commercially exploit a recording, but presumably this will almost always be the reason they're playing on the recording to begin with. As such, if you're involved in music creation, it's important to make sure that you're aware of who the CMOs are in your country, and that you register information with them to help them collect any money you are due. In the UK, the CMOs are PRS for songwriters and PPL for recording rights holders. These publishing, performing and master rights are the very basic elements involved in commercially releasing music. However, there is usually a lot more content created for a release than just the recording of a song, and this content also needs to be thought of in terms of rights and revenue. We have just seen that the lyrics to a song are considered part of the publishing rights to the composition. Thinking about the term publishing in relation to lyrics might help us to make sense of other content that is copyright controlled, and also help us to understand how those rights are potentially revenue generating. Publishing is a term most people are probably familiar with in relation to books. We have all probably encountered a story or a poem published by Penguin at some point in our lives. Penguin take words written by an author and then press them into physical books, and increasingly ebooks. It's easy to see how the lyrics of a song would therefore be covered by publishing rights, since they are literary in nature. But music can also be written out, as score. Publishing companies originally existed to help music be disseminated in this very form, but have evolved alongside the music industry as music consumption has changed. There are, however, other written things that an artist might produce as part of a commercial release campaign, and they also own the rights to these things. This can include things like an artist's bio or album liner notes. These might not be revenue generating in themselves, but tend to form part of products or activities that do generate revenue. Lyrics, on the other hand, might be directly revenue generating if, for instance, they were handwritten copies sold directly to fans. There is a fourth important set of rights which can also help to generate revenue for artists, their artistic rights. These rights cover non-musical art created for the commercial release, such as release artwork and promotional photographs of the artist, and even any video content created. Based on what we have said previously, whoever created these would theoretically own the copyright to them. However, in most cases, these are created with the explicit understanding that the person or company who will own and exploit these rights will be the same person or company behind the commercial music release. As such, these artworks are sometimes called works for hire, which identifies them as work created as part of a specific job, because of which the creator is waiving any future rights over the work. It is fairly obvious how these artworks could be revenue generating. If you have a really stunning or creative album cover, for example, then this could be put on a t-shirt, a poster, or sold as a limited run of prints. And for many artists, their promo shots might make for a very popular poster too. Video, meanwhile, can generate revenue when used as a promotional music video to be streamed or downloaded on DSPs like Vivo, Excite, and Apple Music. Not everything you create is automatically under copyright, however, and equally not everything under your copyright is totally under your control. For example, copyright doesn't typically cover things like names and logos. You can create these, but to control their use, you need to go through a process of trademarking them. This can be expensive, and it might not be necessary in a lot of cases. For an emerging artist, they could sell plenty of merch containing their logo without needing to trademark it. The trademarking process is a matter of restricting others from profiting from that brand, which will likely only be a concern for artists who are very well known. Equally, even though you might own the master and publishing rights for your music, and artistic rights for your artwork and promo shots, there are some circumstances under which people might use this content without having to pay you. For example, if someone wants to review your release, they can include the artwork and music for this purpose without needing to clear it with you. Similarly, if a comedian decides to parody your work, this is also typically permitted under copyright law. As we mentioned earlier, the precise rules governing rights and the circumstances under which they generate revenue vary from country to country. If you're an artist and you're trying to navigate this complex landscape, then make sure to seek out your local CMOs. And please be aware that there are limits to how far back they can reach to collect revenue you are due, so there's no time to waste.